Welcome everybody. So this is sort of, for me, one of the best parts of what we do for Reset, because you get an opportunity to meet a leader in the community that has practical knowledge and that you can call later on and ask questions, but they will give you some things to help you, for you, wherever you are in your business, help you grow and scale it. And so this is, I always say, oh, this is my good friend, like every single time. But literally, this is my best friend. Like we run 3 times a week. I coach his son in basketball. We live a quarter of a mile away from each other on the same. So I'm Fairway Drive, he's Fairway Circle. So he's like literally a quarter of a mile away from me. Our dogs, like my dog loves him. Like literally like loses it every time he sees Joe. He's like, where's Joe? If he hasn't seen him for a while, like he literally, and so we play cards together, so it's really a good friend. Like our families are totally interconnected like that. So I just love Joe to pieces. Knows all of my life, and just sort of, so this is, I'm introducing a brother of mine, just from, we have different mothers obviously, but same brother. So this is Joe Elder. He is territory partner at Trupanion. He's a passionate pet lover. I don't know if you can tell that his profile picture on LinkedIn has Boomer in it, so it's sort of funny. And where's Ozzy? And why is he in a picture?
I gotta get better updating my photos, but I have 2 dogs, soon gonna be 3 dogs, but my oldest is 14, so.
Yes, and so he's
I'm not a crazy
favorites.
Dog person. I'm just doing succession plans.
There you go. So it makes a difference in lives of pets, pet owners, and veterinary professionals. By providing medical insurance for pets, Joe helps pet owners afford the best veterinary care for their furry friends, regardless of their personal finances when unexpected injuries or illnesses arise. He also enables veterinarians and veterinary professionals to practice best medicine, which makes their career more emotionally and financially satisfying. Please give a warm welcome to Joe Elder. All right, so Joe, you sell pet insurance.
Yes.
Okay, and that is something that I know as a kid, you were like, when I grow up, I want to be a pet insurance salesperson. Like that was.
It was my dream on my 25-year plan, you know. That's what yeah.
Like, so not even close.
Yeah.
So tell us about your journey. How did you go from graduated college to pet professional?
Yes, I had not a typical job progression. But after I graduated college, I tried to be a stockbroker, just like my dad. I grew up from New York, so I don't know if you get a tinge of New York. Like, are you talking to me? But I started, I like dealing with people. I thought, being a stockbroker would be fun. That's what my dad did. And in about a year and a half, I realized that was not for me. It was a very high pressure sale, over the phone, just getting people to do what you want them to do. And I decided to go back, get an MBA. I wound up going to WashU in St. Louis, where I met my wife, who's from Milwaukee. So I wound up going there, meeting her, getting married, graduating, looking for a job in Milwaukee. And then I had a variety of sales type positions. But since I had an MBA in marketing, I got onto some consumer products companies in marketing, and worked at GE Healthcare in town. And from there, after working there about 7 years with 5 different bosses in marketing positions, and the job was great, but I asked my friends who've been there for a while, like, do you see yourself retiring from this type of company? And they're like, no, it's a really tough place to be. And I thought, I always wanted to own a business, and I wound up purchasing a franchise called Relax the Back. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It was at Bayshore. It's a specialty product store that helps people with neck and back issues. I did that for 10 years, so I definitely understand what it's like being a small business person, if you're dealing with the public, dealing with vendors, dealing with rent, things like that, pressures of trying to squeeze profit. And then after 10 years, I'm like, Bayshore is charging me $9,000 a month.
Whoa.
Yeah, for a little shop. And I'm like, and I was successful doing that, but not as successful as I was told I was going to be. And I said, what else can I do? And I somehow came across Trupanion. And my wife thought, is this pet insurance thing a scam? Because I'd never heard of pet insurance. We had at the time 1 dog. And I investigated it. It's a publicly held company. I would manage a territory. I deal with veterinarians. And it's about building relationships with veterinarians. So don't worry, I'm not going to hit you up if you all have pets. I'm not going to say, here's my card, give me a call later. It's not like that. And then I've been doing that for 7 years, and it's been a really good journey. And it's,
Okay, so you go in, okay, so you have the dream, you're gonna build a business, you go into this pet insurance, and you go from making whatever you were making doing that to, well, let's just go from, you're working at GE, I'm sure you're making 6-figure, and now your first year in pet insurance, how much did you make your first year of pet insurance?
oh, that would be embarrassing to say, but I'll say my first check we get paid monthly was $250. So, I mean...
So you were saying barely 5 figures is what you're saying the first year, so...
But I knew that going in.
No, all good, like it's part of the, how many people have you, when you started your business, you were making 5 figures at the most, not even close? Okay, good. So you're not, there's no embarrassment to you, because my thing is, it is what it is. You're starting from scratch and trying to build it from there. All right. So why would you do something like that? Then if you're going from this position where you're 6 figures to now, like even after that, you could have gone back to corporate.
Right.
You didn't go back. Why didn't you do that?
Yeah. I mean, the things that motivate me. I'm motivated by money, but money isn't the top thing. Making a difference in the world is probably my top thing. Liking what I do. I'm right now I'm going to be 57. I want to really feel like I'm making an impact rather than I'm making a lot of money. But what am I really doing? And do I feel good about what I'm doing? Like to have some intrinsic value into what you're doing for your family, for the community. And when I came across this, it just seemed like there was this perfect storm of good things. Like people are having trouble paying their vet bills. Veterinarians are in debt, and people don't realize it, but they don't make that much money. And when people tell them they, can't afford to do the right thing, could you put my pet down? It leads to a lot of stress, burnout, compassion fatigue, and suicide in the veterinary profession. So this insurance could solve a lot of problems. And I felt like, wow, I could do this. And the company says, hey, you could make X amount of dollars in 10 years. So I saw that there was a runway, but I thought about the intrinsic value of what I'm doing was meaningful to me.
Okay, good. So now, so you got that, it fits all these things, and so now you're building, though, a business, because you're not an employee of Trupanion.
Correct.
Okay, so how do you go about building, what was like the money incentive for doing this? How does that money work?
Oh, of getting paid at Trupanion? Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's all commission.
Okay.
The thing I liked about it, it's different, and this is not knocking other commission jobs, but like a commission, like selling a car, you sell a car, you get a big commission. You sell another car, you get another commission. What I do is every time we sell a pet insurance policy, it's $10. And then when somebody re-ups each month, it goes month to month, I get $2. Sounds like nothing. But all of a sudden, with the hundreds of veterinarians recommending their pet owners and people are keeping the insurance, all of a sudden I'm getting these residuals. So I realized, wow, I could be doing the same work, but then there's just another zero on my paycheck, and I just keep building relationships.
Okay, and then people that you know of, like in other places, we won't talk about what you make, but what are some people of your friends that they make by doing pet insurance and been in these markets? What do they make?
Oh my goodness. So yeah, in coming to this, probably the top person is making well over $1 million, and she lives in, I think it's like Halifax or Labrador in Canada, a very remote populated area, not like New York or LA. I have other people that I'm friendly with.
$1 million a year?
Yeah.
A year. So.
Yeah, and I have other friends who've been doing it for, 3-4 more years than me that are making $500,000 doing this.
So good. So the money's there.
The money is there.
Okay, and you know people making it. It's not
Right.
something off, oh, there's this person on this island that does it.
Right.
There's this obscure person that's, you know them,
Right.
you've been to their houses, and okay, so that's awesome. All right, so you know it's real, but you're starting off, so how do you actually build, what are some things that you sort of said in order for me to, well, let me set you up better. So Joe has been so successful doing this that the company is paid for him to get another person under him. They're fully covered. Normally you'd have to get your own person, get them set up, invest in them, and then make the money. They said, no, Joe, we're going to give you a person. We're going to pay them their full salary. You got them for how many years you have her?
They're going to pay for 3 years.
So 3 years of salary. So they're investing a lot of money in him to scale him. And she's in Madison, so he covers your whole territory is where?
So it goes from, let's say, near the Fox Valley out to Madison to northern Illinois, like Rockford, McHenry County, Lake County.
Okay, that's circle. So now they're saying, we want to expand you because we love what you're doing. Your growth rate is great. So all those things. So why did they choose to invest in you?
Yeah, well, there's probably, I'm not going to toot my horn, but I'm just going to say facts.
Yeah, just say facts.
Facts.
If they happen to toot,
I'm not the best
if they happen
in the
to
company, okay?
Your little sound, that is okay. So go ahead, please.
But here's some of the facts. I work hard. You do the work. So they see that this is not a guy who's slacking. I have a way of building relationships with people, and I'm not just self-interested. Like, I want to develop other people and build a team, and that's somebody who they could grow with. They felt this market had a lot of potential.
But what specifically, like you're saying this person works hard, like what, there has to be some metrics, because they didn't be like, oh yeah, there's hardworking Joe. Like what were the metrics?
Right. So we have certain metrics, like how many calls are you making? We document our customer relationship management software, so we talk about the types of conversations we're having with clients. So it's not like I'm just stopping by, saying hi, shaking a hand, and leaving. I'm really trying to move the needle, and how many people are starting to recommend our insurance, and what's the level of recommendations that they're doing. So as they're getting more involved, they see, hey, and I'm willing to take chances on things. So I'm not so set in my ways that when Trupanion is a really innovative company, they've probably grown fourfold since I started 7 years ago. So it's a very innovative company.
How much, what's fourfold? So what are they doing now?
Around $1 billion.
So $1 billion. So
and it was a $250 million when I started.
Okay, so they're scaling up that way. Okay, good.
And they do a lot of changes, and I've been one to say, hey, I'm willing to try things. And they want to work with somebody who's open-minded, because sometimes change is tough. In the Midwest, change is really tough. In Milwaukee, it's really tough to try and change things. And to be open-minded, though, to be like, hey, I have a mindset of I'm willing to try things, do things, and the feeling is failing is not failing because it didn't work. Failing is failing because you didn't try. You didn't, take a chance. Because people are going to typically fail all the time, but I think of it as like perfecting your craft. So until you perfect your craft, you have some hiccups and bumps. It's not like I started out the gate and from day one I was a superstar. There's other people in the company that when they tell me what they've done, I'm like, oh my goodness, but everybody has their own strengths, and I've learned not to compare myself to other people and just try and be the best me that I can be in this,
So what's their number one metric? Like what's the thing that they say, okay, Joe, we're gonna measure you against this thing. What is their thing?
Enrollments. So enrollments is who is signing up for Trupanion. That's the number one metric.
Okay, and how, what's a number that they want you to hit? target?
They usually just say 25% year-over-year growth.
So 25% growth is what they're looking for, okay? And in order to get that, they must have a contact metrics because there must be some front end thing, like you need to make X amount of contacts per month?
Yeah, typically I need to visit 100 animal hospitals per month.
100 per month.
And
so,
I have like, at one point, when I had these 2 territories I was doing myself, I had 400 animal hospitals. I mean, it was unmanageable, so.
okay, but you're 100, so that's 25 per week, 5 per day.
Right.
That you need to go ahead and contact, get in front of them, do that
Right.
in order to hit those numbers. And were you constantly doing 100?
It varied, so sometimes I had more, sometimes I had less, but my target was to hit 100. And there was also, like they measure the quantity number, but then there's also the quality number. So how many good conversations are you having, which that doesn't sound like a shiny metric, but you need those good conversations, because if all you're doing is checking boxes and just hitting lots of visits, you're not gonna move the needle. You might feel like, oh, I'm working hard, but are you really improving the relationships that you have? So
Okay.
it's sort of a combination, and that's why, you know, there were some months when I first got started, I'm like, I am gonna be a road warrior, and I hit like close to 200 visits, but they weren't really quality visits, but I got my name in front of people.
Okay, got it. Okay, so then if you're looking at, because we as entrepreneurs, I hope you're hearing some things that he's doing that you need to do in order to grow your practice. What are some things that you say are habits that I have that have helped me get to the place where I'm starting out with nothing, that now you're so good that they're giving you extra help?
Okay. I think the number one thing is persistence, like that, being willing to go back into a place. Like typically when I go and talk to veterinarians about insurance, it's not like they're like, great, we can't wait to talk about it with you, you have the magic thing. And it's sort of funny because Trupanion is like, in their world, we have this magical thing that everybody wants, and then you go to the vet and the reality is they just got 20 other things that are more priorities than you. So I have to be willing to go in, be willing to accept the answer no or not interested. Usually nobody throws me out, but they might not be ready today. So I think persistence, a level of patience, a level of...
But I would say more habit. Like, what are you doing? Those are principles, but like,
Okay.
like a habit is, I call this many people per day, or I have Mondays, I do
Yeah.
this.
Okay.
Like, what are more
Okay.
practical things you do that
Gotcha.
are habits of Joe that I just do every single time it doesn't
Sure.
matter?
So Mondays is like an administrative day where I try and set appointments to get those quality visits rather than just popping by and seeing somebody. So I will make calls, I will look at our metrics and send information to the hospitals like, hey, just wanted you to know you've gotten several pets that have enrolled in Trupanion at your hospital. Because the benefit at the hospital is when a pet has Trupanion, they come twice as often and spends about 2.5 times as much. So there's a benefit to the hospital. So I try and give them like some soft communication, just dripping on them a little bit, not always like calling every other day like, hey, how's it going? You know, but just to stay on top of mind. And so Monday is the big day for just doing all the phone calls, setting up the week, planning, because I'm driving, so I got to make sure I'm not going and being...
You're in Madison and Northern Illinois, and
Yeah.
like you're coordinating where you're going to go to the
Right.
various spots. Okay, all right. So you're saying Monday is your administrative day, and you're doing it twofold. One is setting up for future, but also for positive reinforcement for the people that are doing a good job. I'm going to tell you the good job you're doing as part of that.
Correct.
Okay, got it. All right, and then what are other habits you do regularly, like even on your visits? Like, what are your visits like?
So the visits, I want to prepare for each appointment, so there's a lot of different ways conversations can go. We're a very high-tech type business. I personally am not high-tech, but I can use the technology, so I embrace it, but I am not the expert in it. So we have routing software, we have software that tells us, we have a software that integrates at hospitals that enables us to pay them directly at time of checkout. meaning that say you have $1,000 cost for your vet, they could press a button on their computer, sends the claim to Trupanion, and within a minute we get back and say, hey, we covered 90% of that, we covered $900. So we'd say the client owes this much, we pay the rest, and we do electronic funds transfer. So I have to know what hospitals have our software, are eligible for our software, what hospitals are member of corporations, because just like in the human insurance world, we've got all these mom and pop vets that are now being, and you can't tell a lot of times unless if you have a pet and you've seen VCA, that's like one of the corporations, but a lot of them, they don't put their name on the building, so your local vet might be a member of a corporation. And I just have to know all these different aspects so I am prepared, so when I go to see somebody, I am talking about relevant things that hopefully are relevant to them. And that is the challenge, to always come back and have something to talk about.
Okay, so I hope you guys are hearing, number one is he prepares when he goes. He knows who he's talking to. He knows what is of value to them, and then is providing relevancy at that moment from here's what they need, here's what I offer, and making sure they match constantly on a regular basis.
And sometimes, I'd like to say that sometimes when you have a set appointment, a meeting with a decision maker, that's like the best opportunity, but sometimes you can't get a decision maker. And the attitude I have is I'm really friendly to people. I'm like a what you see is what you get type of guy. And anybody in the animal hospital, I think this translates to all business, I don't try and walk over people to get to a decision maker. I'm gonna be friends with everybody who I come in contact with, because that person could be my biggest supporter there, or they get a promotion and now they're the decision maker, or they leave that company and now they're a decision maker at another company. And if I was just like saying to them, who's your boss? I wanna speak to them, like it wouldn't, I want to try and keep as many doors open and windows open as possible.
Okay, so you just seem like you're natural. Like for some of us, it's like, I'm scared to talk to people. I don't know what to say, or I have fear of, what if they reject me?
Oh yeah.
Do you have any fear? Do you have any, like, because it seems like you're just, like, this is Joe, like all the time. Like every morning it's like, hey, I'm Joe, I'm happy, life is awesome.
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit different if you're not that type of personality. So for a person like that, what types of things do you have? Like, do you have those emotions, and what do you do with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fearless person, but I think what I've done is in my mind, I try and sort of make games out of work and try and lighten it. Like, I think about sales as like dating in a small town. I encounter a lot of rejection. Every time I go in, 99% of people are like, I'm not interested. We have like so many lines like, oh, the decision maker's in a meeting. Oh, she's out to lunch. Oh, they're in a surgery. Like, I'm like, did they all get together and share the same excuses? And rather than getting frustrated, what I typically do is I just roll with it and be like, okay, and not let it bother me, and just try and not be fearful. If somebody, I try and think about what I have, and sometimes I try and empathize with where they're at and how busy they might be and what's going on in their day that has nothing to do with me, which maybe is why they're curt with you, why they're not nice to you, has nothing to do with you. It might be just like they lost an account, or in my business, like they had to euthanize a pet and they're all upset. And then I'm going in smiling, thinking I bring a lot of positive energy, and they don't want that energy. So I've just been like, you know what, I'm just gonna roll with it and just make it a game that I am just gonna go in and just keep the door open. So I'm never gonna say anything that is gonna get that door slammed in my face to say, you are not listening to us. Like, I have to listen to the customer and pick up on cues. So when they just said, hey, we're short-staffed, or hey, and they come up with certain objections or excuses or reasons, I don't want to be like, okay, but this is more important than, I try and meet them where they're at and always stay on board. And I find that being in action, when you're constantly like in action, all of a sudden, when doors are shut somewhere, another person raises their hand that you didn't even expect, and you're like, oh my goodness. And it's only because that you're just staying in action.
So I know one thing, so we talk about all these things. So one of the things that there was you work with some companies, you reach out, and eventually you're like, okay, yeah, I'm not even reaching out to them anymore. They said no, you're done. But then you just had someone that out of the blue contacted you because you never slammed that door. Can you tell us about that company, and you know what I'm talking about? The one where they reached out to you and said they want to install the software at their hospital, but before they're like, no, we're not interested. You closed the door on them, but then they called you. It was like 3 months ago. And it's so funny. I remember these things like
you remember these things. I'm like, oh my goodness, this happens like all the time. There's so many like that.
Which is so. Well, give us an example of one, because that's sort of. I'm a coach even when we're running. I'm like remembering all this stuff. So funny.
Oh yeah, I mean it happens like.
Okay, so give us an example of what that looks like, because I know for some of us, you reach out, they tell you no, eventually you're like, well then screw you. No is no, and I accept that, and you move on. And then, but you're saying there's something about still being around that they end up calling you like.
Oh yeah, and I'll give you this one that's in Northern Illinois. I don't know if this is the one, but
that is actually the one.
Okay. This mega hospital, biggest animal hospital. I drive into the parking lot. It's almost like going to an arena. It's like 500 parking spots. And the history of this hospital was Trupanion and the hospital had some disagreements about something prior to me even coming on board. So when I came on board, there was not a positive feeling of like, oh, Trupanion. It's like, every time I spoke to a contact, they told me about a contact to speak to, and every time I talked to her, she's like, hey, do you want to donate to our event? And it's just like $1,000. And I'm like, well, we don't have any business with them. They want to have me pay for things. I don't think that's the way I want to develop a relationship with them. And I constantly call them and call this person. And finally, just from speaking to other people, I found a different contact. This contact was more receptive. I'm like, great. And they didn't have our software, but we were paying like millions of dollars towards their pets. And I'm like, in meeting with them, I said, hey, we could make the life better for, your clients. And then I said, and by the way, we could probably save you, based on the number of claims that we have, probably tens of thousands of dollars on credit card bills. And all of a sudden, that's what hooked them up. And they're like, great. And they had this software that we actually were compatible with. And this is, I think, a really good example, because we started off and it was like, it sort of plopped, like it was a bad experience. And it turns out that sometimes in taking initiative and trying change, sometimes it doesn't work. And this is one of those cases where they had this software, we were compatible with it, we were actually within the software so that they didn't have to toggle between other programs. And it's in concept, it sounded like a great idea, but it just flopped. And it wasn't just at this hospital, it was like this particular software was bad. And they said, hey Joe, I understand, blah, 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 but we're just not seeing the benefit, and we're going to, not use this, okay. And I said, okay, there's another option that we have. And they said, right now, like the whole management, it feels sort of a little burnt by this, and we're just gonna part ways. Give me a call in a couple months. So I called in a couple months. And that's the other thing. It's like being able to follow up on the relationships is really key. When I first started, I was so busy visiting people that when I had a contact and they told me to get in touch with them, or I knew I should follow up with them in a week or two, I was seeing so many places. I was focused on numbers rather than on the actual relationship. So I started really making a concerted effort to follow up with them. And with this hospital, I called them up, did a demonstration through Zoom. They're like, this seems great, and back in. And this is one where it's not because I'm a super sales guy. This is just like keeping the doors open and having a relationship and being honest with people. And so.
All right, awesome. All right, so do you guys if you have questions, please, we're gonna do our Q&A. I've got one more question for him, and then we'll sort of start getting your questions too. So, Joe, what's the exit strategy here? You're doing this now. You're already 57. You're entering your third 30. Third 30. Thank you. So I didn't know that was a thing, but it is. So it's your first 30 years up until you're 30 years old. The second 30 to 60, and the third 30 is 60 to 90. And my dad is actually going to be entering his fourth 30, which I don't even know if that's a thing, but so good. So thank you. It's about to be. All right, good. So you're sort of entering into that. So what is your exit strategy for this?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting because when I got into this, my wife is like, we have a very good relationship, married 30 years. She's doing really well in her job, and she's like, what I'd really like to be our goal is that I retire in 5 years and your income replaces yours and mine. And I'm like, okay. So when you talk about exit strategy, I'm thinking, I gotta make more money to satisfy, our family need. And I don't have a problem working. I mean, in terms of stress, I don't view this as stressful because I really do like it. I like all the things. There are stressful aspects of it, but compared to working at GE or doing things on a Sunday when I had my relax the back where I have to deal with a customer problem and I'm like, I just try and make everything relative, and the stress I have, I could see myself doing this for years, but I will tell you that when it comes time for me, I think I have another 15 or 20 years of work because I don't think I'd want to just sit around doing nothing. And nothing against being a greeter at Walmart, but it's just that's not what I want to do. Either I'm going to volunteer for a charitable organization or do something philanthropic, or I'm going to work. And I don't have a problem with that. But when it comes time to thinking about the exit strategy, in the past when I worked with a business broker with my Relax the Back store and I was ready to get out, I started thinking about, I want to do other things, and I can't wait till the last minute because you can't sell a business if there's no lease, if there's no customers, so I had to plan in advance. And with Trupanion, I feel that I would also probably work with a business. I feel that working with a business broker is probably a good idea, and to determine what's the value of your business. So whether you work with a business broker or not, to find out what is the value of what you have. And if they come back to you and say, the value of your business is $100,000, and you're like, but I've been working so hard in this for years, then you got to figure out ways to, increase the value of your business so you could sell it. Because the last thing you want to do is think, I'm working hard in this. Somebody else doesn't want to buy a job. They want to buy something that's making them money and that maybe frees them time, gives them a work-life balance. Whatever it's unique about your business, somebody else has to want those things, and it has to be profitable. And with my Relax the Back business, I learned the hard way that it wasn't making enough money, that somebody else saw value in what I was doing. And so what I wound up doing was I researched how do I extract as much money from my business, and I sold everything, whether it was attached or not. I sold computers. I worked with people, I call them vultures. They want just hey, I'll buy your cabinets. Okay, how much? $100, done. And then I wound up paying off all my debt through that business by being creative like that. But with Trupanion, the idea of it was I could sell this to somebody else. I could gift it to my family, but none of my kids want to do this. So I'm like, okay, that's too bad, but hey, they got their own dreams too. So I would work with somebody and trying to figure out, when the time is getting closer, what is this worth? And even work with Trupanion to identify people. But what I've realized, I don't know if anybody is in sort of a similar situation working if you're all your own business, or if you're like a 1099 working in a relationship with another business. But what I've come to the conclusion is you have your best interest at heart. No other company, while Trupanion is a great company, they care about the top line and benefiting them. And I want to benefit me and my family. and I got to do all those right things that make the most sense, regardless of the pressure. You know, it's like peer pressure. It's like, okay, you're big and strong, but I'm just not going to do that.
Okay, awesome. So, anyone have questions for him?
Yeah.
Sure.
So I was gonna say, you said that your work's not that stressful to you at this moment, so I mean, you have a great routine. So you started out kind of saying that on Mondays is your average day, but how does the rest of the week go?
Yeah, so what's really unique about this job for me is, and when I took Trupanion, why I wanted it, I was working 7 days a week before. And so I had 2 kids, now I have 3, but I missed their growing up. My wife was doing everything, and I was home for after dinner from like 7:30 or 8 and put the kids to bed, and then I leave in the morning, sometimes before they're up. So when I was finding what do I want to do when I'm older, I thought I could manage this territory but have like this work-life balance. And that was really important to me. So I didn't buy a job, which was really key. And whatever you're doing, it doesn't necessarily have to be what it is today. You can make it what you want to be if it's your own business. And that enables me to go running with Darren. I mean, you know, we make the time to do the things that are important to us. And
So what does like Tuesday look like? Like what does a typical Tuesday, a typical Wednesday, a typical Thursday, a typical Friday look like for you?
Okay.
To be able to pull off your segmentation strategy.
Oh, yeah.
Right hospitals.
Oh yeah, so it's sort of a combination of things, and I try not to feel guilty, and this is a really tough thing, but not feeling guilty about giving yourself time, you know, and maybe there's a trade-off with money, but I got a good marriage, I have a great relationship with my kids.
So like Tuesday.
Tuesday. Okay, Tuesday. So Tuesday.
This is us when we're running.
Yeah.
Like he'll go into Joe.
Yeah, okay.
Answer the question.
Keep your point.
All right.
So Tuesday, Monday night, I say, hey Darren, what time do you want to go running on Tuesday? And we say, sometimes it's 6 a.m. I am not a morning person. I would never do that. I always worked out by myself. And I was into running fast and training for things. Then I met Darren, and now we run together and we talk all the time, and we got this really awesome friendship. So Tuesday is I start the day with friendship and positivity with Darren. Okay, if you have a friend, see your friends more often. After that, so he's awesome. So after that, it just depending on. If I was able to set up appointments in a certain geography, I use the software we have to fill in the blanks, and it's really a great routing software, so it's very efficient. So I could determine, you know, if I have a half-hour set appointment, I know it's going to be between this time, and all the other appointments are basically, you know, discretionary, but I set them up, and I just pop in and try and, you know, distribute materials or see if I could set up an appointment. I don't want to get too in depth with non-decision makers and talk to them about things like not respecting, you know, they weren't expecting me to come in, so I want to be respectful of them. So I want to keep things brief, to the point, and be friendly, so they would want to, you know, potentially speak to me again or give me, I ask for, you know, can you set up?
So Tuesdays are your visit various hospitals.
Tuesday through Thursday.
So Tuesday through Thursday, okay.
Yeah.
So Monday's prep day, Tuesday through Thursday is visit your clients day, and then what's Friday?
And Friday is also visit clients, but it could be sort of like a catch day for, hey, I like spur of the moment, can I go on an appointment? Somebody calls me up, they raise their hand and say, hey, we want to set something up with you, and I have a day of the week, like that's in my ideal world. If it's not that, then I'll be visiting on Friday also. But everything is, for me, is very geographical, and I got to make sure that I'm visiting. In order to be able to visit 8 animal hospitals, I have to make sure that they're all like near each other, because otherwise you could be driving all over the place and being inefficient.
So to answer, so basically Monday is prep day, Tuesday through Thursday, structured visits day. Friday is flexible visits day or catch up.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. Yes.
Yes.
So, do you use time blocking so that you're able to, because you had mentioned early on when you were speaking that you weren't real good in the beginning of making sure that you were taking those notes and then following up when you said that you were gonna follow up. So, do you use time blocking to make sure that if you do a drop, you stop in, hey, I'll follow up with you in 2 weeks? How do you make sure that you're...
Yeah, that's a real good question, because Trupanion has all these softwares, and I think software is only as good as the person who's using it. And what worked for me was using Outlook as a way to, I'm looking at Outlook in addition to my software for Trupanion, but I look and I have on certain days, I'm following up with this person, and I could go back to my CRM software and look at the notes and say, oh, I talked to Sally on this day and we talked about these things. And that's another thing, like depending on your information, like I try and be using technology to be really fast with everything. So that way, if you don't have CRM, I think it's a really good thing to really know your notes, who you're speaking to, what you talked about, what the next steps are. So every time I go into that appointment, it's not like I have to look through a notebook and,
Okay. All right.
Did that answer?
Yeah, it did. And so, what day of the week, because your Monday is prep day, Tuesday through Thursday is out of the office day, Friday is scheduled for, pop-up appointments. So when are you sitting down and actually making those follow-up phone calls and?
That's on Monday.
Oh, that's on Monday.
So
Okay.
Monday is
So
going to
Monday
be
is-
a variety of different administrative non-field activities. And I try and do my best, and then Trupanion uses that day for meetings with the company, and sometimes I gotta determine, are these meetings of value? And if there is something that is not of value, your time is valuable, you gotta sort of cut things that to have a meeting is not worthwhile. But if you're actually doing something, whether you're training an employee or you're having time to think and strategize, like you gotta block out that time.
Revenue generating tasks.
Exactly.
Okay. Any other questions you have for Joe? Okay, all right, so Joe, one last thing.
Yeah.
I always ask people to ask if there's one piece of advice they can only take one thing away from the thing you do that makes you the most successful, what's your one thing?
Okay, sort of like a twofold one thing.
Okay.
I say I stay positive and I never give up. Those two things combined.
Okay.
Like that
is who he is.
That's-
I mean, that's you, that person, that is. Like
Yeah.
when we go, you are always a positive person all the time. And we really do we adjust to each other. One person has a back issue, one other person has a whatever it is. Then today's a walk day, and so we walk. And
Yeah.
it just is it doesn't matter. We're just gonna get out and go do our thing, no matter what.
And I was gonna go back to what you were saying before. I say don't feel guilty about things. And that has been a really hard thing for me. I mean, growing up, I'm sure, your parents probably use some level of guilt in your relationships, and you feel guilty if you don't do certain things. And it's really hard to break away from not feeling guilty about doing what you need to do, regardless of what it is. And to not feel like if I do this, I'm gonna be letting, it's like, no, you gotta find time to be okay with the decisions you make and not feel guilty about it, because that's how I try and stay positive.
That's three things though.
I'm sorry.
So we can't get
I'm sorry. I thought it was being positive.
No.
Oh, man.
No, because what happens is people are like, oh, well, I gotta be positive and I gotta be persistent and I gotta give up guilt and all that. It's just too much. Like if there's one thing, it's just be positive. Like no matter what, you heard him reframe, even when he meets with people and gets a rejection, he reframes it to stay positive. He's intentionally looking at things in a way that says whatever the incident is, whatever the circumstance is, he's gonna make it into a positive thing. And I think that's your one takeaway. So I wanna say thank you so much to Joe for coming, and really good.